Welcome to Julian's Pet Grooming, Doggy Daycare and Boarding. In the next few minutes, we're going to go over the policies, agreement, and release, which is the document you have been provided with. We usually cover everything you need to know to use our services. Some of the things that we mention here refer to our daycare service, some of them to our boarding services. All our rule, policies, and agreement and release apply to both. In any case, if you still have some questions about our services, you can pause this video and ask any of our staff members, or you can ask at the end of it. First of all, we're going to go over the policies. All dogs are required to wear a collar and a name tag. If your dog doesn't have a name tag, you can get one from a place like PetSmart, where you can write their names on their collar, or you can write their names on the back of the rabies tag if they're wearing one. We don't accept choke collars, harnesses, or prong collars. It has to be a regular webbing or leather collar. Of course, all dogs have to be clean before you drop them off. They gotta be current with distemper, parvovirus, and rabies. Everybody has to go through a temperament test, and they gotta pass without aggression. We don't take them in if they're aggressive. Dogs that show signs of being sick won't be accepted. All services have to be paid in advance at the time of drop-off. Dogs gotta be, of course, dropped off and picked up during business hours unless we make other arrangements. This temperament test and introduction is a one-time deal. You don't have to do it again in the future. But we always, if you're coming in to use our services, we always appreciate a call in advance to let us know you're coming in. If you're gonna start doing daycare and you buy a package, you don't have to call us. We'll be expecting you, okay? But that's only for daycare, or if you have a reservation for boarding. We're gonna ask you to label everything that you bring for your dogs, including the leash. You can write their names inside the handle with a Sharpie. We do have silver and gold Sharpies in the event that your leash is black. If you bring a harness or a bed, blanket, the dog food, whatever you're bringing in for them has to be labeled. You're going to be filling out a checklist form, and you're going to list every item that you're leaving for your dog. Don't bring anything that breaks. Anything edible has to be in a sealed container or Ziploc bag. Don't bring small items too small for them to swallow if they get anxious during the night, okay? If you're bringing a bed or a blanket, make sure it's not bigger than a washer load. Otherwise, it won't be accepted. If it gets dirty and if it doesn't fit in the washing machine, we'll just rinse it off, put it in a bag, and that's the way you're gonna get it back. If it fits in the washing machine, then we'll wash and dry it for your dog, and they can continue using it. Next, I'm going to be reading the agreement and release to you. I'm going to read points 1 through 13. But basically 1 through 4 is the same thing. You're fully financially responsible for your dog. Anything happening to them, you're responsible for it. If they need to go to the doctor, if there's an emergency, if your dog needs medical attention, if there's a dog bite and they need stitches, anything, if we need to take him to the vet, you're responsible for that bill, okay? Unless you use our vet coverage, which is a service that we provide, you'll be fully financially responsible for any incident, injury, disease that your dog gets while staying with us, okay? Our promise is that we're going to be treating your dog with responsibility and with care, but in order to use our services, we ask you to agree to the following terms and conditions. Number 1, you agree to assume full responsibility and financial reimbursement to Julian's Doggy Daycare and Boarding and the entire staff for any and all damages, losses, and injuries that are caused by your dog while staying in the care of Julian's Doggy Daycare and Boarding. Basically, what it means is if there is a bite, your dog bites a person, and that person needs to go to the doctor. The city of El Paso is very strict about it, so animal control is gonna get involved, and you're responsible for that bite. Okay, that's something that you need to be aware of. That's point number 1. Number 2, you acknowledge that your dog has not harmed or shown aggression toward people or other dogs. If your dog has shown aggression in the past, this is not the place for you. You need to get a kennel service. This is a daycare, which means your dog is gonna get, even if they stay for boarding or they come in for daycare, they're gonna be
sharing the facility with other dogs, so they gotta be able to socialize. So in advance, if you know that your dog is being aggressive before towards people or other dogs, this is not the place for you. If your dog shows signs of aggression, let's say they come in today, they pass the temperament test, and in the future when you drop them off they show signs of aggression, you understand that your dog will be given a timeout in a kennel. Your dog may be separated from other dogs or put a muzzle on. If we're unable to correct that behavior, then you'll be contacted, and then you have to send somebody to pick up your dog if you're not available. Okay, that's why it's very important that you leave as an emergency contact somebody who's not gonna be traveling with you. Number three, you verify that your dog is healthy, is free of sickness or disease. Otherwise, we ask you to provide information about any pre-existing medical condition. You provided the proof of vaccination for distemper, parvo, varicella, and rabies, and every dog has to have those vaccinations even before coming in for the temperament test. You understand that it's an additional $1 fee per dog per dose if we have to give him medication. Okay, if we suspect that your dog has something contagious or gets sick or injured, of course if it's a non-emergency, we'll call you, but we're not responsible or liable for any injuries or illnesses. So if we have to take him to the vet, or if you take him to the vet, you're responsible financially speaking for your dog. Okay, then if your dog needs to board at a vet facility, is the same deal. You are responsible for that. Of course, for any non-emergency, for anything that happens to your dog that doesn't require medical attention right away, you'll be contacted, and you have that option to send your emergency contact, go to your vet clinic, and then come back with the treatment, and then we'll continue doing the treatment here. Number four, if there is an emergency and your dog requires vet care, of course, we're going to attend the emergency first, and then you'll be contacted later. Anything that we pay for, if we have to, you would have to reimburse us. If you use our services on the west side, on Mesa, we use the services of Coronado Animal Clinic. On the east side, we use the services of Montana Animal Clinic. Both of those clinics are right next to us on the west side and on the east side. If we have to pay for anything, you would have to reimburse us. The other thing is, if there's an emergency, and of course, you'll be contacted after the emergency is taken care of. Like I said, we're not responsible for any of the bills. You would have to pay for that unless you buy the pet coverage service that we offer. Okay, and in that service, and we'll explain later, we cover up to $300 in vet bills. Okay, anything beyond that you're responsible for. Okay, so you need to understand that if there is an emergency, we're gonna take your dog first, and then we'll call you later. So in this case, you don't have an option. You would have to pay for any bills, for any expenses generated by this emergency. Everybody is responsible for their own dog. So if your dog bites somebody else, you don't need, unless it's a human, but if your dog bites another dog, then you're not responsible for the other dog. In the same scenario, if your dog gets a bite, you are responsible for your dog if your dog needs medical attention. We don't usually have emergencies, and we don't usually have dog bites or things like of this nature, because they're always supervised. Everybody goes through the temperament test, so chances for something like this happening are very slim. Still is possible, and you need to understand this. Number five, We take pictures and videos and use them for marketing purposes. So we're asking your permission to do that. We also stream live video from our facilities to your smartphone or tablet. We only ask you to use one device. Since our bandwidth is limited, it would cause, if a lot of people connect at the same time, it would cause for a DVR to crash. It's just like a website. If a lot of people connect at the same time, it crashes. So we have to drop everybody off, reassign username and passwords. So this live stream video is available free of charge to our customers, and you can access it downloading an application. We'll give you instructions on how to do that. Number 6, dogs staying overnight, they also get daycare. If you pay for a boarding service with us, your dog is also gonna get daycare, which means we're gonna be here and offering daycare for all dogs from 7 in the morning until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. On Saturdays, it's from 7:30 until 5 p.m. if you use our east side location. If you use our west side location, it's from 8 in the morning until 5 p.m. Earlier drop off, in any case, Monday through Friday or Saturdays, is 15 minutes after we open. So you gotta keep this in mind. If you're coming in for daycare, we ask you to come in between 7:15 on a weekday and 7:45 on a Saturday if you use our east side location, and come in before 10 a.m. The reason is you don't want to bring a dog for daycare that is full of energy and disrupt the balance and environment for the other dogs that already play and they already spend a few hours outside playing and socializing. So if you bring a dog in for daycare and it's after 10 a.m., that dog is full of energy, and all the other dogs, they're already trying to find a spot basically to lay down. So it disrupts our environment. So we ask you, if you're using our daycare services, to come in on a weekday in between 7:15 and 10 a.m. If it's a Saturday, remember to drop off 15 minutes after we open and before 10 a.m. If you're coming in for boarding, people always ask, what's the best time to drop off? I want to say anytime before 3 p.m. for boarding, it's a good time for drop off any day. Just remember that on Sundays and holidays, we don't have drop offs. On Sundays, we allow pickups, and it's only 9 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. If you use our services and you're coming back on a Sunday, we'll remind you of these things. On the other hand, if you use our services on a holiday, you would have to drop off before the holiday and pick up after the holiday, okay? Everybody pays for boarding services, and it's per night. You're gonna be paying every night your dog stays with us. That means if you drop off in the morning on the day of drop off, or you drop off in the afternoon, that's not gonna change your price. If you're coming in, just make sure you come in between those times that we mentioned before, but just do a drop off before 3 p.m. On the last day, on the pickup date, what happens is that our checkout time is noon. So you're going to be paying for the last night. Let's say if it's you're coming back on a Friday, so you're going to pay for Thursday night, for example. And then our checkout time is noon, so there's no extra charge if you come in before noon on that Friday. If you come in in the afternoon, then we do charge you half a day of daycare. Number 7, like I said before, we don't have all day daycare on Sundays. Monday through Friday, as long as it is not a holiday and your dog is staying overnight, we do have all day daycare, which means your dog or your dogs are not going to be in a kennel during the day. On a Sunday and a holiday, they only get about 4 hours of outside of their kennel. We come in the morning for about 2.5 hours and about 2.5 hours in the afternoon. We'll feed them. They have a chance to go to the bathroom, drink water, play for about a couple of hours, and then they go back in their kennel. Sundays and holidays, those are the only days that we don't do all day daycare. You gotta keep this in mind. But Monday through Saturday, as long as it's not a holiday, your dogs are gonna get daycare if they're staying overnight. Number 8, bring plenty of food. Whatever we don't use, you're gonna get back. Bring any comfort items. Don't bring small toys, something that they can swallow during the night if they become anxious. Just remember that nothing will be put in the kennel the first night. And the reason is they become really anxious sometimes, and they end up, even if they're kennel trained, they end up destroying anything you put in their kennel. So the first night, for us, a general rule, even if you use your services before, nothing goes in the kennel. You will also include any instructions for any medication that they're taking. The instructions has to be attached to the medication, okay? So we'll provide the feeding bowls as needed, the water bowls as well, so you don't need to bring the feeding bowls or the water bowls. If we have to use our food, let's say your dog runs out of food, we do charge for that. It's $1 per cup. So make sure you bring plenty of food. Like I said, any food that we don't use, you're gonna get back. Just make sure that the food is in a sealed container or Ziploc bag. We don't accept open containers or open bags. Every container and every bag has to be air sealed. Okay, so that means that it has to have a Ziploc enclosure or a lid if it's a plastic container. Don't bring anything that breaks. You may include the measuring cup that you use as long as it's non-breakable. So plastic or aluminum for a measuring cup, the one that you use in your house for the measuring the food, it's welcome as long as you label it. You gotta label it with your dog's name. Okay, you need to understand that the wet food is only given in the morning. So if your dog is on a diet with only wet food, just make sure you include something for the afternoon, because we won't be able to give him wet food in the afternoon. It's only given in the morning. If your dog only eats dry food, so we'll do feeding according to your instructions. So you want to make sure you put the instructions on the container. So let's say if your dog eats 1 cup in the morning, 1 cup in the afternoon, just put the label on the container or the bags, or just write their name saying, my dog eats 1 cup in the morning and 1 cup in the afternoon. Number 9, you agree to pay in advance a 20% deposit for a reservation. Any boarding reservation requires a 20% deposit. We don't make reservations without the deposit. Number 10, if you make a reservation for boarding and you decide to cancel, you don't get your money back. That 20%, we'll give you credit for future services. It's not like we're going to keep your money. We'll give you credit. But just for holding up the space, we're going to give you your money back. On the other hand, if you make a reservation and you drop off your dog, and let's say your reservation and the stay for your dog is 10 nights, and you come back a couple of days before, you do get your money back for whatever services you don't use, or you can use them as credit for future services as well. Number 11, we do have a late fee, so make sure if you're going to be late on the day of pickup, or if you're coming in for daycare as well, if you're not going to make it in time before we close to pick up your dog, give us a call. We won't charge you the late fee if you call us or let us know somehow that you're not gonna make it. Of course, you would have to pay the late fee if your dog stays overnight, plus the cost of the night, okay? Number 12, we keep the little ones with the little ones and the big ones with the big ones. Dogs don't see size, okay? You can actually have a Chihuahua with a Mastiff. They are able to smell gender and age. That's something that they can actually do by smelling each other, but size is something that they do not see. That's why sometimes you have a Chihuahua acting like a pit bull, and you can actually have a little dog with a big dog with no problems. Here, everybody goes through the same temperament test, and they're actually able to be together. The only reason we don't keep them together is because, the big ones are a little bit rougher, so they play rough. They'll rush to the gate when someone goes back to, our daycare area. And sometimes they end up stepping on the little ones. That's basically the only reason we keep them separated. Okay, so if you see a little one that ends up for any reason with the big ones, don't worry about it. We're just gonna move him back to the area where they belong. The same thing with a big one. If the big one ends up with the little ones, and you're watching the cameras, let's say, don't worry about it. We're just gonna move them back to where they belong. Sometimes we do have larger dogs with the little ones, but they're basically, sometimes they're just puppies or older dogs that cannot be with the big ones, because they're a little bit more rough. So that's what happens. We'll just sometimes have larger dogs with the little ones. They're always supervised. We're always keeping an eye on them, so nothing's gonna happen. The thing is that for I want to say, for the safety of the little ones, we'll keep them separated from the big ones. Number 13. If your dog, this has never happened before, and don't get offended. This is something that we would do in the event that basically somebody drops off and never comes back. We contact the emergency contact, and they don't want to take responsibility. Anybody on the list, they don't want to come in for the dogs. Basically, somebody abandoning a dog. And don't get offended, this has never happened before, but in the event that somebody just drops off and never comes back, what we would do is we would take that dog to the Humane Society. The Humane Society is a no-kill organization, but they do charge you to get him out. Okay, so just keep in mind, if you're gonna be late, if you're not gonna make it, just give us a call. Let us know you're not gonna be making it on time. So that basically covers points 1 through 13. If you don't have any questions, we ask you to put today's date, print your name and signature, and then put your initials down there for something that we're gonna read. Another sheet of information that we're gonna read to you right now.
The next thing that I'm gonna be reading to you is something about boarding. This also sometimes applies to daycare. So if you're thinking about boarding your dog or bringing your dog for daycare, there are a few things that you need to remember and that you need to know, especially if you're using our services for the first time. Okay, for most part, your dog is gonna have a good time. We try to have a environment free of stress. They're gonna be playing with the other dogs. So for most part, your dog is gonna have a great experience. Daycare is a great tool for dogs. Okay. But sometimes they stress out, from being away from home. So they don't eat the same amounts. It's one of the things that happens. They can get stress colitis. The most common symptom of stress colitis is diarrhea. Sometimes you may see some blood in their stool. Okay, so we do have over-the-counter medication that we have to give him for that. But if the diarrhea continues for more than 2 days, then chances are your dog needs to go to the doctor. Okay, so you'll be contacted, and we'll let you know what's going on, and then you can make a decision. For the same reason, sometimes they lose a little bit of weight. Not only for the excitement or the anxiety, sometimes they're just gonna be more active. Okay, so if your dog is staying with us for a long time, make sure that the measuring cup that you include a little bit more food for every measure. Just make sure that your dog is gonna be getting the right amount of food. Okay, sometimes they change their behavior. After you take him home for a couple of days, they're gonna be acting weird. It happens, especially with the little ones. Okay, this happens a lot. They go underneath the couch or underneath the bed, and they don't want to come out. They don't want to talk to you. This happens a lot, and it's something that is gonna go away after a couple of days when they get back home. Okay, nothing to worry about. We see it very often. And then what you need to know about boarding diseases: kennel cough or Bordetella. Bordetella is the name of the bacteria that causes kennel cough. It's known as a social disease, and this is because basically dogs can spread it around just by touching and smelling each other. Okay, I want to say that a place that has a kennel cough problem is not a very clean place. We haven't seen Bordetella in a really long time because, like I said, Bordetella is a bacteria, so you can actually keep it out. if your dog is staying with us and then after he gets picked up and he goes home or she goes home, and you notice coughing for more than 2 days, chances are that your dog had already the Bordetella, and it just developed while staying with us. Sometimes being stressed out, lowers their immune system and then they get sick. It doesn't necessarily mean that your dog got sick from our place. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. In any case, give us a call, we'll help you out. We don't pay for the treatment, you're still responsible for their care. Okay, but chances are we can get you the treatment a lot cheaper than most places. We can help you out. Contact us, we'll help you through it. Your dog has the shot for Bordetella. It doesn't mean your dog is not gonna get sick. It just means that it's gonna make it a lot easier to treat after they get the shot and if they get sick from Bordetella. Okay, if you're using our services for boarding, we do offer a vet coverage service. That means if your dog gets sick from being stressed out, or if he gets diarrhea from the same reason, or if there's a bite, an injury, anything unexpected while staying with us, we do offer kind of like an insurance, and it's $15 and it covers up to 7 nights for those $15. Any additional time is $10 for any additional 7 nights. We don't cover Bordetella or any viral disease. Allergic reactions are not covered with it. And also, if your dog has a medical condition, a pre-existing medical condition, it's not gonna be covered with that services. Basically, what it is for dogs getting injured or there is a bite and your dog needs to go to the doctor. We'll cover up to $300 in vet bills. Okay, and that's the limit, and that's per dog. Okay. And so if your dog needs to go to the vet and you bought that service and it's $350, we pay $300, you only pay $50. Just keep in mind that it's only for injuries, stress colitis, and nothing pre-existing. Okay, and we don't cover Bordetella either. You can ask about this service to any of our staff members, and then we'll explain, and you can read every clause, and you can initial it before actually adding that service to the boarding stay. Okay, so you can ask about this service to any of our staff members. It's called the pet coverage service. Okay.